I have a lot of thoughts. And I'm here to rant about this book. Guys, and welcome to a brand new vlog. I'm filming this very early in the morning, so I'm sorry if I'm super croaky. You're literally the first people that I've spoken to. I mean, I briefly said a very sleepy goodbye to Harry on his way to work, but you know, you're the first people I've had actual full sentences with. So I am very excited to kick off this vlog, I'm not gonna lie, because tomorrow is my first ever highly anticipated 24-hour readathon with my patrons. So this is a thing that I've been trying to get onto the calendar for a while, but if you've been following any of my social media recently, then you will know that things have not exactly been smooth sailing around here. And after my life fell apart video where I was like, well, I hope that that's all of our bad things over and done with, Harry's appendix basically burst on us out of the complete blue. So then Harry had some time in hospital. Don't worry, I am filming this a few weeks on from that. He is fully healed now, going back to work, but yeah, it was a time. So getting to do a 24-hour readathon kind of just feels like a treat. It feels like I've been gifted something. A whole day, you say, to sit and eat snacks and read? I can do that. I can achieve that. But this vlog is not just going to be the 24 hours of the readathon, like the midnight to midnight part, because I'm actually going to be live for my patrons for 12 hours of that. Myself and some guests are going to be live from 10 AM to 10 PM reading on my couch surrounded by animals. Well, I mean, my guests aren't going to be on my couch surrounded by animals, but I guess they're going to be on their couches surrounded by their animals and possibly their children. Children count as animals? Probably. And the books that I have picked for this 24-hour readathon, I am highly unlikely to read all of within the 24 hours. So this vlog is going to be my TBR, the readathon day, and then as many days as it takes me to finish off all of these books and my opinions on them as I go. So let's get into my TBR. Let's talk about what I'm planning on reading very early in the morning. So just to give the readathon a little bit of structure, because my patrons were like, yeah, we would like some prompts for it, I have gone with the structure of all of the tasty things that you would normally have in a day. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack time. The prompts for breakfast are either pancakes and syrup, read a book with romance in it, or toast on the run, read a short bite of a read that's going to get you kicked off for the readathon. So for this one, I've decided to go for the short bite of a read because I quite like at the start of a readathon finishing off a book like in its entirety and being like all accomplished. And I did consider for this Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Mass because it's a really tiny book. But I decided that I would probably not fly through that because it is historical fiction, although it does have one foot in kind of like horror, psychological question mark. But when I was looking at that book on my shelf, I spotted this one and I was like, oh, that is it. That is the correct pick for this readathon. That book is Come Closer by Sara Gran, and it did come closer. It came closer to McNabb's mouth. Can we see that? Can we see the teeth marks? Occasionally in the night, McNabb will climb onto my bedside cabinet and have a chew at any covers that are up like this. But this time he went for the whole ass corner. So love that for me. This one has one of those very tiny and very loose synopses that could really kind of mean anything. But what I get from it is that there is a weird apartment which this couple has moved into and that it is slowly driving the wife insane. It says strange noises, impulsive behaviour, intense dreams. It wasn't like everything went wrong at once. I am a little bit concerned that it is sounding a little bit similar to The Apartment, which was a burning trash fire. I also read that live for my patrons and we had some opinions on that stream. Yeah, so I'm a little bit concerned that it's going to be like this, and also I'm a little concerned at the mention of dreams because sometimes dream sequences and dream scenes in horror can just be like a lot. But I do have high hopes for it because it is only 165 pages long. It is toast on the go. It's the tiniest, most bite-sized book. So we shall see. So next up we have lunch, which when done properly is one of my favourite meals of the day. So for lunch we have either Ladies Who Lunch, which is to read a book with a strong set of female characters, preferably female friends, or my personal favourite lunch meal, fast food. Read a book with a fast-paced plot, and of course that's the one that I have gone for. I think a fast-paced plot in a 24-hour readathon is a must. For that one I am going to be picking up False Witness by Karen Slaughter. This is actually a standalone Karen Slaughter book that I didn't know existed. I don't know how this one just slipped under the radar for me. And as with all Karen Slaughter standalones, it has like nothing for a synopsis. I can almost tell you nothing about this. I know that it's about sisters though, which The Good Daughter was about sisters, Pretty Girls was about sisters. Anytime Karen Slaughter writes about sisters, it tends to be a massive, massive win for me. So I'm very hopeful, but all it says on the back is Lee doesn't like to talk about her sister, about the night that tore them apart, about what they did. But someone else is about to. How far will Lee go to protect her family? And this one is a lot longer, as you know, it's a Karen Slaughter book. So it's 458 pages. And I don't think the font the font is not that big. So there's absolutely no way I'm going to read the entirety of this during the readathon, but I think this will probably end up being my main read. Then for dinner we have either a gourmet meal, which is like, you know, when you go out for a nice meal, or when you have a Harry who cooks you a nice meal in the house, which is very fancy and you would never cook for yourself. And that is a book featuring your favourite trope, or we have takeaway. Yeah, I know we've had fast food for lunch and potentially takeaway for dinner, but there is absolutely no judgment here. Say it with me, guys. What you read and what you eat is literally none of my business. Or, you know, anybody else's in your life. Just as a bit of PSA in there. For the takeaway prompt, my patrons and I could choose a book which has been a takeaway from a friend's TBR, and that is the one that I've gone for. Partially because I had to stay true to my roots, and yeah, probably takeaway would be my favourite option of those two if, you know, I was required to do any cooking or heavy lifting. And partially because I have the perfect book for it, and because I want an audiobook for during the sprint. And so for this, I have the audiobook of Gallant by V.E. Schwab. You will notice that this is not an audiobook, this is not an inserted cover. This is the hardback that I got from Toppings during Victoria's trip. On the first day that we went book shopping, she was like, oh, this is the book that I want. It's the only book she came to Edinburgh for. She left with over 20 books, just saying. But this was the one that she came here for. Change an angle because my battery died, because when am I actually organised for these things? So essentially this one is about a girl who's grown up in an orphanage, and she has always felt very different from everybody around her. First of all, she can see ghosts, or as she calls them, ghouls. So they're not like full people or even the echo of full people, but they are parts of that person. And sometimes they're pretty gory, but she's grown up with them and it's not really that weird. And second of all, unlike all of the other girls in the orphanage, she knows that she at one point did have a family who loved her, because she has her mother's journal, which features as pages throughout this. So in between chapters you'll get an extract of what her mother was writing, and her journal gets weirder and weirder as it goes on. And also our main character is mute, and nobody really has made an effort to learn to communicate with her or to learn any kind of sign language, and so she mostly keeps to herself and she doesn't have a lot of social interaction. And then one day she gets a letter from her uncle asking her to come back to the family home of Gallant. And even though her mother's journal has specifically said in many places, do not go to Gallant, do not go back to Gallant, she does it anyway because she's desperate for family and for belonging, and what she finds there is really not what she expected, including the fact that her uncle has been dead for years. And then finally I did a fourth prompt, a bonus prompt called Snack Time, part of a balanced diet. Quite a few of my patrons were saying that they wanted to do graphic novels during this readathon, and so they wanted more prompts to be able to stack them, and so this prompt gave you 2 extra things to pick from. First of all, we had popcorn and a movie break, so a book that had been adapted into a movie. And then second, we had everybody's favourite snack, chocolate, which is a book that has a feel-good vibe. I have curiously gone for the movie adaptation, even though that is not something that I would normally pick up. You guys know that I'm not a big lover of movies anyway, but I'm especially not a big lover of movies that have been adapted from books, because The book is always better is an iconic cliche for a reason. But I have decided to go with Practical Magic. I have never read the book of this at all, even though the book has itself a cult following. And as soon as I mentioned that I was choosing this for my TBR, I realised the true divide that exists between fans. Apparently, Practical Magic the book and Practical Magic the movie are two very different entities, and ne'er the twain shall meet. So apparently most fans either like one or the other, they don't like both. And I've decided I'm not going to give a synopsis for Practical Magic until I'm actually reading it, because the synopsis that exists in my head is for the movie, right? So if these are so different, maybe the synopsis won't translate. So I'll come back to this one when I'm actually physically reading it for this vlog. Oh, and before I get on with my day, I should also probably tell you about the book that I am currently reading. Because I know myself, and there's absolutely no way, given how addicted I am to this book right now, that I'm just going to put it down for the readathon books and come back to it later. I'm probably going to be reading it in between all of these books during the vlog. So this vlog could get a little bit chaotic. This is the true reflection of my mood reading, where I go boom, 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 boom between books. Anyway, that book is Why Did You Stay by Rebecca Humphries. This is a memoir of a toxic relationship and the very public way in which it ended. Rebecca Humphries is an actress, and a few years ago she was dating a pretty famous British comedian who took part in the show Strictly Come Dancing, which is a celebrity dancing show where they join with a partner and they learn to dance over this 10 weeks and somebody wins a trophy at the end. The BBC spends like an inordinate amount of money putting this on every year, and it becomes like a media sensation. The celebrities get stalked, etc. And during one of these stalking sessions by the media of her boyfriend, they discovered that he was actually having an affair with the dancer who he was paired with. And as often happens, a lot of opinions then were produced on the internet. And then Rebecca made a very, very famous media statement, like a very famous Twitter statement, which is actually reproduced in full at the start of this book, including the comment afterwards, which was, if he was that bad, because in her statement she admitted that it was an abusive relationship, if he was that bad, why did you stay, eh? Which, yeah, is a whole thing in and of itself. And so this book is split up into sections, which are I left and I stayed, and it goes back and forth through the relationship. And I am obsessed. She's such a good writer. She's such a good writer. I am thoroughly dragged in. I'm completely invested in this transformation that she's going through during this book. So I would say that I'm exactly about halfway through. I'm definitely going to finish it in this vlog. So I'll probably also I'll just add it in. It'll be 5 books. It's a 5-book vlog. I'm giving you all of my opinions. So my plan now is to get on with the rest of my day, do work, and then later on when Harry gets home from work, we are going shopping for snacks, because it is a summer read-in, right? So I need all the summery snacks, all the traditional summery snacks that make me think of childhood. That is what we are going to purchase. I need there to be lemon Fanta in my life. Okay, goodbye.
Run away for a day just to say that we did it, yeah. Oh, yeah. Making plans, holding hands, running wild for a while, yeah. Oh, yeah. So let's not stop here, baby.
Good morning. Happy readathon day. Hi.
Come here, baby, yeah. Oh, yeah. You and I know can face it all. Oh yeah. With the wind in your hair, take control and take us anywhere. Oh yeah.
Okay, so we are officially 1 hour to go until we are live for pretty much the rest of the day. I look like this now, and I've obviously just had a dance break, which in retrospect was probably a bad idea because it's like 87% humidity in Scotland today and I am dying. So I have been working on my cozy setup. There are lots and lots of cushions, and I also have an extra blanket in case I end up wanting to lie on the floor, which happens quite a lot in this house, to be perfectly honest, lying on the floor and throwing on an extra dog. So I've also brought all of the books that I'm reading. Here they are. They're in a nice handy stack, although I am missing one because this is the extra that I was reading in bed this morning. Like I said last night, I was intending to switch out to my first readathon read this morning. I made the really stupid mistake of putting this on top of this. So when I picked them both up this morning, I was like, oh, hello again. So we haven't yet actually started the readathon TBR portion of the readathon, but we have been reading rather a lot. Also, while I've been getting ready this morning, I've been listening to the audiobook of Gallant. I really need to mark where I am in this because I'm much further through than it looks. And then I'm going to get my breakfast out because it's going to be 10 by the time that I go live and I haven't eaten anything yet this morning. Padfoot, get down! Oh yeah, and I have to take my stupid medication for my stupid brain and my stupid body. You're leaving me.
I'm coming home though.
But when?
5 o'clock.
So you're gonna miss a whole readathon day?
No, it's another 5 hours after that.
So what are you reading for readathon day?
I am reading Kings of the Wyld.
Oh, that's on my most anticipated.
It's fun.
Are you enjoying it?
I've only just started. It's a little bit in. But yeah, so far, very much enjoying it. Yes. I think you'll like it too.
You'll have to tell me what you think when you come home.
Okay.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Everybody has an opinion about Daddy leaving.
Yeah, I don't want to leave either.
Yeah, well, don't go then.
I gotta go.
I love you. Bye.
Have a good time.
It is hot. It is hot. It is so hot. Doesn't help that in typical ADHD fashion, it took me 3 separate runs up the stairs to get 3 separate things. But we now have them. The first being the fan, which is droning in the background. The second being my slightly dusty, but it is filled with fresh water bottle. And the third being the ceremonial summer candle, which we are going to light at the start of the readathon and not blow out until the end. I am literally 2 minutes from going live and I feel like I am melting into a puddle. Please send help. Hi guys, good morning or good evening. It might be good evening where you are. Say hello to the vlog, guys. Okay, so this is where the fan blows out. No, I refuse. Okay. The ceremonial lighting of the candle has been done, so mote it be, bitches. The dogs needed out for a pee and I needed some sustenance, so yeah, I have gone for the packet mac and cheese. Do not judge my life choices. However, I am 3 sprints in, I think, and I'm here to rant about this book. Remember what I said from the blurb? I didn't really know much. It was obviously going to be there's something wrong with the house book, and that's definitely what it is. It's an apartment. Alright, there's no need for that. It's an apartment complex that has been made out of old factories, so obviously it's old and it's creepy and the building's got stuff going on in it. But it's got a few of those tropes that I just absolutely hate in horror novels or haunted house novels. And I'm struggling to get past them because It's only, so remember I said it's only a really short one, so it's only 165 pages, so I'm going to read it anyway. Without giving any huge spoilers, because it really does say it in the first sort of chapter and a bit. This is one of those haunted house stories that's actually like a haunting / possession story, and so we are with the main character as she goes from thinking, there's some weird stuff going on in this house, but it's probably fine, to, oh no, something definitely is going on here, and I know it's going on with me, but I now don't understand any of the choices that she's making. And I also feel like the author is reaching for some very tired ways of showing us that this is creepy by having the main character worried about neighbourhood dogs and then making a friend with a dog who it turns out she's alluded to as one of the first people who notices that there's anything wrong because, oh, dogs and animals are more perceptive than the rest of us. Like, I feel like I've read this book before better in other places, and I also feel like because she is doing it in a short form way and not a long form way, she is kind of, as a result, not really leaving enough space for me to be afraid of anything. The one part in it that I really loved, where she receives a book on demon possession in the mail by mistake, so she like orders an interior design book on Amazon and she gets a demonic possession book and like signs to look out for by mistake, and that was creepy and that was great, and I was like, oh my god, I love that. But there's nothing else in the rest of this to back any of it up, and it just feels tired. It just feels tired, and so do I. I went hard on the snacks, so maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just salty. Maybe I just need to be less salty, but right now I'm just annoyed and a bit bored. And it was not the snappy, fast-paced read that I was hoping my first book was going to be. And if it keeps going this way, I don't know. I feel like if I switch on to something else, I'm never going to finish it. Like, I'll never pick it up again. I don't know. What do you think, Sussex? Should I DNF it? Can I sit? Can I sit? Shift! You can't have my mac and cheese.
Make it home, 10 p.m. curfew, but we take it slow. 60 on the freeway, are we so mature? Tell me, is there anything
Okay, we are 10 minutes away from being 7 hours into the readathon. I have finished Come Closer, and I wish it had not come closer. I wish it had gone far away. It was awful. Weirdly as well, at the last 10 minutes of the last sprint, I added to my Goodreads this to, like, you know, mark it off and say that I'd read it and stuff. And I had a look at the 95 people on my friends list who have read this. Out of that 95 people, most people have rated this 4 stars. I've given it a 2. I feel like it was tired. I feel like it's every possession story I have ever read, ever. I really hated that there was so many link backs to the Bible, and not because I think that possession stories should not have any biblical references in it, but because, again, I feel like that is like so formulaic. We've done it before, and I also feel like this book could have once again been solved if they had just divorced. It really does feel like a domestic thriller up close and not much else. The writing was fine. There were a few genuinely creepy moments, like a handful of genuinely creepy moments, but I felt like they were overshadowed by the rest of it. I didn't like at all either the fact that there were like vaguely, I don't want to call it outright racist moments, but places where characters could be pigeonholed into a slot, like the newsstand guy was Asian, and the person who told her about possession and gave her a potion was very clearly not white and had like very broken English. And it just felt like every place where a character could be racially profiled, they were, and it left a really ick taste in my mouth. So yeah, I I'm heavily not a fan of this. Once again, that one is gone. I am now going to start the, hold on. I am now going to start the Karen Slaughter appreciation part of this readathon. It's time to read something that I am going to completely enjoy. That's actually on my TBR, because I did enjoy this morning's reading. It just wasn't on my TBR. So in we go to this one. I know nothing about it except for that little blurb that I gave you yesterday, so cross fingers.
If there is, it's alright, I'm so cool. Don't you think so?
Okay, so I am officially 1 hour to go, and then I have been live from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. It has been an amazing experience. We've had so much fun, like so much fun. The chat has been great. Some people have stayed all day. It's just been lovely. It's been a really, really nice experience. So I've read a huge chunk of Gallant, obviously, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, maybe tonight or tomorrow. I'm really, really enjoying it. It's really good. Again, I still have no freaking idea what's going on, but it's kind of fine because the vibes are immaculate. And now I have started False Witness by Karen Slaughter, and okay, so Karen Slaughter books are always a wild ride when you first start them. Like, they are always a really intense wild ride. There is almost always a huge amount of gore in the first chapter, and that really, really holds true with this one. It does kick off to like a massive gory scene. But as soon as we get into the second chapter, we get into Karen Slaughter's like very tongue-in-cheek, very sarcastic style. I really, really love it. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm back home. I feel like this is something that is going to be like a really easy, quick read for me, which is exactly what my prompt was for this one, like a fast-paced kind of book. But I have discovered that it is set post-COVID. Now, Kirsty, my lovely friend Kirsty from Melb's Reads on Bookstagram, and I have been Karen Slaughter fans for years, and I am fairly sure that this is the book that Kirsty and I had a conversation about, wherein she said Karen Slaughter actually rewrote this book to include COVID. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly sure that I'm not. There are a bunch of references to masks, to bubbles, to hand sanitizer, to people who are COVID idiots or masks something or others, whatever term they were using in America. There is a huge amount of COVID chat just in the very start of the first chapter, and I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how I feel about reading the details about this really traumatic event that has happened over the past 3 years in books. And it's not because I'm saying that books which are contemporary or have contemporary settings like thrillers or literary fiction shouldn't include this in any way, but I don't think I needed it to be a plot device. I don't think I want it as a plot device. I think I just want it as a thing that has happened in the world, as many other things have happened in the world. And I'm really struggling with it because it keeps pushing me out of the story. Every time it gets brought up, I'm like, oh my god, okay, I get it. There are masks. I get it. You miss your daughter because you didn't bubble up with her. Like, I just feel like the whole story could have been told without that and it wouldn't have been lacking. And I'm already, you know, I'm only just right at the very start of it, like less than 50 pages. So I'm hoping that it doesn't remain the main theme throughout, because I'm realising that that's just not a thing that I particularly want. So I'm off back to this. This is my last full sprint. And I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it goes. Also, if you've heard snoring throughout this entire thing, it is this puddle who has stolen my seat. And I don't really think he's sleeping. I think he's doing the snore so that I don't move him.
Don't you think so? Don't you think I'm cool? Don't you think so, baby? I'm so cool. Don't you think so? Don't you think I'm cool? Don't you
been so much fun. Where do we go?
Supermarket.
What do we get?
Soya milk.
And
Fries to go?
microwave chips. But we're still going to get real chips.
Real chips.
We're still going to McDonald's.
Real chips.
Real chips.
McDonald's. Real chips. Okay.
Shut up and take me there.
Okay.
We were sitting in a parked car, talking about anything we want. That's when you stole my heart. I wish that summer never stopped. We drive around till midnight, hoping we wouldn't get caught. No matter how far we went, we'd end up in a parking lot. We were just two kids in love, so unexperienced, living in the present, no clue where we were heading. Dim glow from the street lights, painted yellow across your face, staring in your emerald eyes, but I had nothing to say. Your eyes flashed through the darkness as you sang me old songs. I felt your love embrace me, and I knew you're where I belong. We were just two kids in love.
Okay, so I am popping back in with another update because I have finished another book. If you can hear noise in the background, it's the shower. I have literally banished Harry. Sometimes I have days where it's harder to talk to the camera than other days, and I get really self-conscious when anybody is listening to me talking to myself. So I've sent him for a shower, and that's any noises that you hear in the background. So as predicted, the book that I have finished was not one of the books that was originally on my TBR for the readathon, because it is this one. I think the last time that I told you about this one in any kind of sustained way was right at the beginning of this vlog, when I told you what it was, that I was really enjoying it, that I was halfway through it, and I probably wasn't gonna put it down even though I had other books to read for the readathon. And all of those things have still remained completely true throughout. I think if I had to rate this one, I would probably give it a solid 4 stars. I really enjoyed the reading experience of it, but I do have a couple of not complaints, but things that didn't work really so well for me. So as I've mentioned, this is a memoir, and it is a memoir that picks up immediately after the incident where Rebecca finds out that her boyfriend has been caught on camera with the dancer that he was paired with for Strictly Come Dancing having a kiss outside of a nightclub, and he admits that this has happened a couple of times. This is just the first time that they were caught, and his overarching worry is that his life is going to fall apart, is that the public are no longer going to see him as likeable or relatable or vote for him in this show that he's excited to be in. He literally says, why is this happening to me? And doesn't consider that these pictures are going to be in the paper the next day for all of Rebecca's friends and family to see. And in fact, her dad is actually a newsagent, and that is going to be the way that he finds out, because she's got no way to let him know before that, which is just absolutely horrendous. But this isn't just a straight up memoir. This is actually split into 2 different narrative time frames: why I stayed and why I left. She goes back and forth through the timeline of what happened in the immediate aftermath when her life completely fell apart, and all of the things that led her to allowing herself essentially to be put in a position where this could happen. Because what we really quickly realise only a couple of chapters in is that this is a hugely unhealthy relationship, and that Rebecca doesn't really have very high expectations of how people treat her. As I mentioned as well at the beginning, I absolutely love Rebecca's writing. She has this really interesting tone at the start of this book where it's both confessional where you feel like you're kind of a friend who she's catching up with after a long time, who hasn't been around and hasn't seen the, you know, rubble of her relationship, and she's kind of explaining to you this unreal situation and how she got there. And so it feels really intimate and it feels really close. It feels like you're the only person getting this information, like she's trusting you with it. But also she's super, super chatty in a way that doesn't make it feel like a chore to read, because I think sometimes memoirs, especially ones about really difficult and complicated relationships, whether that's romantic or familial relationships, can sometimes be like a little bit heavy to read. And this never feels heavy, even with the weight of the information that she's giving you about gaslighting and the other things that she is going through. Because I think, I mean, this is straight up emotional abuse, and there is all the trigger warnings associated with that. Like, it's not a great place that she finds herself in at all. I also really love the way that she introduces her friends, because it is this like chatty confessional narrative. It kind of feels like you're literally being introduced to a cast of side characters, just as you would in sort of like a contemporary fiction novel. And it's a really interesting way that she's done it, and I was totally blown away. I fell in love with some of her friends. She has some friends in here who really take care of her. They are found family. She, like me, doesn't have a very close connection with most of her actual family. I always go to say birth family, but I'm adopted, so that's weird. Either my birth family or my adopted family, I don't have good relationships. And so this felt a lot like I could relate to it in my experience of my found family and the people that I have chosen for myself, and having to learn to trust them, coming from a childhood of not being able to trust the people in your life who you're supposed to, having to choose to trust the people that you have let in and the people that you have found to love is really, really difficult. And it's like it's a really long path towards that. And watching her journey was both really heartbreaking and really heartwarming, because you could see her getting there. You could see like the layers of all of this shame and guilt that she was just casting off, and that was amazing. I also think that the narrative between why I left and why I stayed was just so clever. There were some points that she would bring up at the end of a section where she would be like, and then he said this, and it was just like a throwaway line, and then she would go back to why she stayed and the building up of their relationship and why she fell in love with him in the first place, and you realised why that line was significant. And it was like, literally, I kept going back to this quote from Emma Thompson on the front where she's like, fierce, game-changing, urgently necessary, brilliant, brilliant, and did I say brilliant? And I really agree with blurbs on the fronts of books like this, although of course, like, it's Emma Thompson, how could we disagree? She is a queen. But this was exactly what was echoing in my mind. Like, this is just brilliant. I can't believe that she's like pieced this together like this. It felt almost like a mystery novel, but the clues were her relationship. It was just amazing. I did mention that there were a couple of things that didn't quite work for me, and I don't know if the first one is actually more my fault than the fault of the actual book itself, because I did have a little like gap in the middle. This is obviously a few days after the readathon, and I actually took a couple of days off where I just didn't really read anything because I was just, you know, doing other things. And when I picked this back up again, it felt really slow, and I feel like the last third is definitely the weakest part of this memoir. I think it felt a little bit like she wasn't sure where she was going, which is normal because at this point in her life she wasn't really sure where she was going or what she was doing, but I think that really came across in the book. It felt more like oh, how do I wrap this up, which is my second point. I don't really enjoy the way that she wrapped this memoir up. There always seems to be another chapter right at the point where I thought, right, this will be the end then, we're going to stop now. There would be another chapter, and I was like, oh god, there's more. Right at the end, at the epilogue, she has put together this bullet point list, and it really is just that. It's an extremely long bullet point list for things that you can do if you feel like your friend or your loved one is also in like a gaslighting or emotionally abusive relationship. It's things that you can do that might help, and I didn't really think that they were expansive enough to actually be helpful. It was more like, you know, when you pick up a magazine that's mainly targeted towards women who, you know, like take that magazine on their lunch break and that kind of thing, and you get like these things that you can do to improve your life checklists. It felt like one of those checklists where it was like, oh, things that you can look out for a gaslighting relationship, and I felt like it was really reductive because the entire book was essentially showing you what her friends did right, and I don't feel like she needed the bullet point list at the end, so that was the other thing that didn't really work for me. But other than that, this entire reading experience was great. I'm so very glad that I picked this up. It could have been maybe 75 pages shorter, I think, and it would have been absolutely perfect, but for what it was great, and I really do advocate that you pick it up. And now my voice is going, so I am going to get into bed, and I'm just now realising that I didn't bring the Karen Slaughter book upstairs with me, so I'm gonna have to go down and get that so that I can do some more reading of the Karen Slaughter book in bed. I am like 2/3 of the way through the Karen Slaughter book, so I have a lot of thoughts that I will bring you later, and I haven't even started Practical Magic yet, and we're definitely more than halfway through the footage for this vlog, so I'm starting to worry that Practical Magic's not going to fit in, and that we're going to have like 2 books from my readathon, or 3 books, because Gallant, I will definitely finish Gallant, that we're going to have 3 books from my readathon TBR and then just a random, and we're not going to have Practical Magic. I really want to read Practical Magic. We'll see if I've got time for it. Alright, off I go once again after midnight, finishing work, to go get my book.
No matter how far we went, we'd end up in a parking lot. We were just 2 kids in love, so unexperienced, living in the present, no clue where we were headed.
Hi, hello, I have emerged from my book bath, and I am here with thoughts on the last 2 books of this vlog. And yes, I say final 2, I'm here to talk about Gallant and about False Witness, but I am not here to talk about Practical Magic. I'm so sorry if you were excited for me weighing in on the book versus movie Practical Magic debate, but I promise I'm going to find a way to shoehorn it into a vlog in the coming couple of weeks, because it's spooky season now and I really want to read it. Like, I really want to read it. Let's start off talking about Gallant, because guys, I absolutely loved it. It was exactly what my brain needed right at the time. It was spooky, it was mysterious, there were creepy things going on, there was an old house, there was a family secret. All of the vibes were absolutely immaculate, and there were plenty of mysteries to unravel in there. But for some reason it felt curiously low stakes. And I'm gonna guess that if I go onto Goodreads and have a look at the complaints about this novel, that that's actually going to be what I find on there. Like, there's peril, but it never really feels like peril. Things were spooky and creepy, but I never felt creeped out. Also, if you can hear snoring, I once again have Grissom pressed against me, and as he's a very ill puppy right now, he gets to snore during the vlog. Yeah, so everything about this felt like it was exactly tailored to the situation that my brain is in right now. I needed something that was just going to be almost whimsical, that was going to sweep me away and that I didn't have to think too much about, and this definitely provided that. It also helped that I listened to this one on audiobook. The narrator's voice is perfect. He does such an amazing job of making you feel like everything is ominous and there are more things going on in the background that you don't know about. I was worried about what they were going to do with the portions of it that were notebook portions, because there were a lot of scratch outs, but you actually got the noise of things being struck through once they had read it to you, so you knew which parts had been like scratched out, and it was just, I don't know, it was genius. I didn't know how they were going to do it, and that it was such a simple way to do it, but it was so effective. This one, along with Why I Left, are definitely the shining glories of this vlog, which brings me to the books which are not. So let's talk about False Witness. I was scared about going into another Karen Slaughter book after Pieces of Her, because although I was kind of flippant earlier on in this vlog about it being a trash fire, I really do mean that it was. There was a bunch of homophobia in there, just casually used as plot when it didn't need to be. There were huge reveals which just didn't make sense. There were plot holes all over the place, and there was a split timeline which was boring as hell. It felt like a complete departure from any of the other Karen Slaughter books that I had ever read, and I was so shocked when it got made into a Netflix series out of all of her possible books. If you liked that book, please explain to me in the comments why you liked it, because I just found almost nothing redeeming about it, and I am boggled by people's reception. And I wonder if it's really just a loyalty to Karen Slaughter, because she has written so many books, and if she's one of your favourite authors, you do just like, you know, keep picking them up as she keeps churning them out. So I was already pretty trepidatious going into this one, and when the start was so rocky, because it wasn't just the COVID stuff, which I am massively not a fan of, and I'll talk about more in a second. It was also the way the book opened and the main character that Karen Slaughter chose to focus on. And I understand now, having read the book, why she chose that one out of the two sisters, and that it couldn't possibly have been any other way. But I really, really didn't like Lee, who is the main character in this book. It's funny because I have noticed in a few of Karen Slaughter's other novels that there have been some brief allusions to women not supporting women, to female characters hating other female characters and putting male characters on pedestals, but it has always made sense in the context of that particular character. And so it was never really something that rang massive alarm bells. It was just something that was, you know, sad in that character's backstory to see on the page. But this time around, there was just no need for it. This character just hated all other females. Every other female character that came on the page got a comment about their hair, about their body, about their lifestyle choices, about their beliefs. It was just so toxic. And there was so much of it. There was so much of it right from the beginning. And I know that Karen Slaughter really prides herself on being like a gritty, slice of life, like reality type author, that she really like prides herself on pushing the boundaries of what it's okay to put on the page. And while for the most part that's totally fine, I feel like in this book it bled into her character so much that I was really turned off. In Pretty Girls and The Good Daughter, which are obviously my two favourite books that I have read from her, there is a softness in the character still, even though they've gone through all of these horrendous things, and there was none of that in Lee. Every interaction that she had was just so bitter and like sarcastic, which I mentioned earlier is something that I really love about Karen Slaughter's characters, but this was like sarcastic to the point where I was like, girl, that's just mean. I'm gonna give a tiny spoiler here for something that's mentioned at the beginning of the book, and then again maybe like 50 pages in. It's not a massive detail in the entire context of the rest of the book, but if you want to avoid it, then skip to the point where I don't have my hand up anymore, okay? Are we ready? Essentially, one of the things that this entire book hinges on is the elder sister, Lee, passing a babysitting gig onto her younger sister, Callie. And this babysitting gig comes along with a guy who has attempted to abuse Lee and was unsuccessful in doing so, and she felt forced to keep this babysitting gig. But when she got a better job, because she could drive her car to get to the better job because she passed her test, she passed this babysitting gig on to her younger sister without really feeling very bad about it at all or thinking about it in any complex way. And I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe that even sisters who didn't particularly love each other, Karen Slaughter really wants you to believe that these two do. I didn't believe that that would happen. It just didn't seem real to me. So that was crap. Okay, so spoilers over. My one last major complaint about this book is that there is a plot line about halfway through which hinges on one of the characters giving one of the other characters COVID. And that was when my brain just went, nope, I'm done. This is awful. I hate this. And I literally hate read the end of that book because there was no other way that I was going to be able to finish it. I put it off and I put it off and I put it off, and eventually that's why I made myself a book bath. I literally had to lock myself in a tub of water with just this book and nothing else to amuse me because I hated it just so freaking much. Sad about it. I'm so sad about it. I'm so sad about the choices that she made. And I'm not saying at all that COVID shouldn't ever appear in any book ever, anywhere, ever again. It is a thing that has happened. It is a thing that we are living with. I'm not saying that we shouldn't ever include masks or hand sanitizers or anything in books, but I am saying we're only 2 years into this pandemic, and maybe to make it like such a big, vivid focus of your novel is maybe it's maybe just not the time, you know? It's maybe just not the time. That having to have it forced into my face in fiction was not something that I wanted. So I think if that happens again, if I find a book that has so much content about the pandemic, I'm just going to DNF it immediately. I'm not going to put myself through it. So there we go. We're finally at the end of this vlog, and we're also at the end of summer because I smell autumn in the air, my friends. It's about to turn the 1st of September. You're seeing this only a couple of days before the end of August, and I am so excited. I'm so excited to start getting all of my pumpkin shit out. Smelling rain in my garden and the like drying cobble smell of Edinburgh are just two of my favourite things of this season, and I'm just so happy. I hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog as much as I have. It's been one of my favourite to film so far, and I'm definitely firmly on the vlogging bandwagon. There will be more vlogs coming from me in the future. If you have read any of the books that I talked about in this vlog, then please let me know what you think about them down in the comments below. I would love to hear your opinions. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider hitting that thumbs up because it really helps my channel. And if you're new here, then stick around because spooky season is on the horizon and oh, the girl comes to life. I will speak to you guys soon. Bye!